Hello, coaches. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Spotlight. Today, I'm chatting with Jennifer Abrams, author of, among many others, Having Hard Conversations, Swimming in the Deep End, and Stretching Your Learning Edges, Growing Up at Work. In today's Spotlight, we're focusing on the power of clarifying conversations. As coaches and leaders, these conversations are not always easy, but their importance cannot be undervalued. If you're looking for strategies to manage these kinds of clarifying conversations in your role, this episode is for you. To hear the full episode, subscribe to Coach Better wherever you get your podcasts. Jennifer is also featured in our Women Who Lead Certificate Program, and today's conversation is a window into one of the modules inside the program, Handling Difficult Conversations. If you want to step into challenging conversations with confidence or handle confrontation without fear and anxiety, Women Who Lead is for you. This 8-module online certificate program is designed for aspiring and growing leaders and features the voices and experiences of over 70 successful female leaders from around the world. Women Who Lead will empower you to articulate your leadership potential so you can overcome the many challenges faced by women seeking leadership positions in the field of education. Registration for our next global cohort is only open from the 2nd to the 16th of May. Don't miss your chance to join. Find out more at edurolearning.com/women today. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Coach Better podcast. I am super excited to be here with Jennifer Abrams. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jennifer.
Thank you. It's fun.
Yay. I recently interviewed Jennifer for Women Who Lead, and after that conversation, she was gracious enough to come back on for the podcast. So thank you. Jennifer is the author of many books, but one of which that I have seen in almost every administrator's library is Having Hard Conversations. So I am can't wait to dig into all those different pieces of work that you have been doing. But before we get started, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, could you give a brief intro to your work and then we'll jump in?
Sure. So I'm a former high school in Palo Alto, California. My feet are on a lonely land here in California, south of San Francisco. And I did that for a decade and then had the opportunity to be a new teacher coach and did that along with professional development work in a variety of on a variety of topics with a variety of groups for 16 years with Palo Alto Unified School District, and then went out on my own to consult and speak and on author books and coach, and started internationally, I think in 2009, doing some work with the PTC and Bambi Betts and instructional supervision, and have been working internationally ever since. And I've got a new book coming out and we'll talk about it. And that's what I do. And I've been on the ground in this office, AKA second bedroom, for the last 10 months since the shelter-in-place order came here in California.
As educators, like you said, we aren't trained to talk to each other. And even as coaches, we're often stuck in this really hard situation where administrators might have an underlying or direct spoken expectation that we're doing evaluation work when we really shouldn't be. And so then there's this tension of hard conversations with your superior, and also trying to have the right conversation with the teacher to help them move forward. There's so many hard conversations happening. How do we get better at that in terms of the difference between a clarifying conversation and a hard conversation, and then maybe some skills to practice or how people can practice? Can we dig into those two? And I'll let you choose whichever one you want to start with first.
So let's talk about clarifying conversations, agreements, norms, expectations. I think that they are really super hard for some people to kind of get their hands around, because we have been fuzzy in our in the things we write. We have been fuzzy in determining what the bottom lines were, and that's where the fuzzy becomes conflict. Okay, so give you an example of a clarifying conversation that should have been a clarifying conversation, and it ended up I helped the person step back from the hard conversation. I had a principal who I was talking to who said, I have to talk to my assistant principal. She's the assistant principal. She's just not effective right now. And I've got to speak up to her. And I said, well, in what parts of the job is she ineffective? There are just too many to count. I said, well, that won't be actually really useful. Won't be useful to tell her that she's ineffective. If you say in these parts of the job description, or when you look at the benchmarks or the framework and the different parts, which parts, if I have to spell it out to her, she's just not really good. That should have been a clarifying conversation, but he got scared because he couldn't name it. He didn't want to go back. He didn't know at that moment, in that particular moment. I'm not saying if I didn't put the stuff in front of him, he couldn't have spotted and labeled, but he felt put upon because I was asking him for clarity. And I truly believe that is, do not have a hard conversation if you've not had a clarifying conversation. Are you clear with stuff, like, to me? And so that's really important. And I think that there are many places where we don't know, we're angry, but we haven't been clear. We feel put upon because that makes us feel inadequate because we have to articulate it. We don't have that sheet right there, and we feel, embarrassed because we can't find the right language. And so then we make the other person wrong. And then it's like, no, actually, you need to step back and say, what are the expectations or the norms or some agreements you need to work on moving forward? And that, to me, then will stop some hard conversations from happening. There will be people who say, I can't believe that I have to spell things out for adults who we've hired, who should know better, who are already in the position. Okay, I appreciate your frustration, and guess what? They're not doing what you had anticipated or assumed that people were doing. Can we have just a clarifying conversation one time so that we can be assured that we're both on the same page? And can you do it without being pejorative, diminishing? There have been some missteps, or we've miscommunicated. We're just going to get on the same page. We're just going to get, as I call it, 2 feet in the present. And then people don't follow agreements, or then we can have some hard conversations because there are gaps. And I've been, and do you have to do a call out at that point? Or could you, as there in a lot of the social justice work, at least in the US, are talking about a call in to remind people of their best selves and what we expect here in terms of language or frameworks or behaviors. And yes, it is a piece of language from social justice work and diversity work here. And I still think that you could have a hard conversation that's more of a calling back to the agreements. And then after a while, they don't do it. We're calling it out because it's educationally unsound, physically unsafe, or emotionally damaging. And then we're going to have a deeper hard conversation. But there are like so many levels at which we can work before we do what I think people fear, which is the hard conversation. Which is all caps, all caps, exclamation points, bold print, and in red. That's not what I'm saying. I just don't think that. I think we got to back up the truck And I have people many, many times here in the United States in the last 10 months. Quick, can you come in and talk about what we need to do after the murder of George Floyd? Boom. Can you come in and can we talk about everything with the teachers, K-12 after the insurrection last Wednesday? We have 90 minutes. Can you speak? Back up the truck. Okay. Back up the truck. Let's just step back and let's think about what we want to say and what we believe and what are our values and to what, and then you have a voice coach. You're going to talk to a kindergartner about that. You're going to talk to a high school student about that. You're going to talk to an adult about that. Then you decide what you want. You're going to write something to the parents. Then we voice coach. There's too many messages and we got to be really, is that all? I mean, it's just it's complicated, but it's boom, bada boom, clarifying, not a soft, hard conversation, but a more rising up to expectations that have already been clear and then a hard conversation.
What I think is so fascinating about that, first of all, I think you described that so beautifully because I always say, I can't even tell you what I say right now, but I always say you have to be more explicit than you expect. That's always what I think, like in professional learning context and coaching conversations and all these, you have to be more explicit than you expect. And that phrase, I don't like it as much as even just you said fuzzy becomes conflict. And I think that's the thing is we all are coming at the world through our own personal lenses. And we all, without even meaning to do it, very, very often not, malintentioned, you expect everyone else to be coming to the world with those same lenses. And that is not the case. So unless you clarify those expectations, unless you have that clarifying conversation, you can't expect that the other person knows what it is that you know, especially when you can't articulate what it is the problem is, right? So I think that whole concept of having the clarifying conversation before the hard conversation and getting comfortable with articulating what exactly is it that's making you angry, upset, annoyed, frustrated, whatever it is. Because if you can't say it, then you can't communicate to someone else. And how can they possibly know? Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you are ready to leverage your leadership potential and build your network of inspiring female leaders in education, please join us for our next global cohort of Women Who Lead. Women Who Lead is our online certificate program designed for aspiring and growing leaders, featuring the voices and experience of over 70 successful female leaders from around the world. Inside Women Who Lead, you will build the confidence, competence, and clarity you need to take the next step in your leadership journey. Imagine applying and interviewing for your dream job without imposter syndrome holding you back. Imagine handling difficult conversations without all the anxiety and stress. Imagine being able to manage all the competing demands of a busy leadership role while maintaining a sense of wellness in your life. And having dozens of examples of how women in all facets of leadership have handled the challenges and barriers we all face when pursuing a leadership pathway. You'll leave Women Who Lead empowered by your own identity and able to see how your unique life experience make you the leader that schools need. Registration for our next global cohort is only open from the 2nd to the 16th of May. We facilitate only one cohort each year so we can create connected, collaborative, and community-driven global cohorts. Now is your chance to level up your leadership and reach for your dream job. Join Women Who Lead today. Go to edurolearning.com/women to find out more. Here at Eduro, we provide customized online professional learning for educators at the intersection of technology, coaching, and leadership. Our mission is to empower the relentless learner in you to embrace your inner leader and make a bigger impact in your school setting. Join our Coach Better Facebook group and connect with us on social media at Eduro Learning for more great resources at the intersection of technology, coaching, and leadership. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.